Welcome to the March Reading Series presented by the Sundress Academy for the Arts. The Sundress Academy for the Arts, SAFTA, is a writer's residency and arts collective that hosts workshops, retreats, and residencies for writers in all genres, including poetry, fiction, nonfiction, journalism, academic writing, playwriting, and more. Find out more at sundressacademyforthearts.com. Thank you to the Tennessee Arts Commission for the grant, which has made paying our readers tonight possible. This event is hosted courtesy of Sundress Publications. The land on which Sundress Publications operates is part of the traditional territory of the Salagi people, now Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma, and United Keetoowah Band of Cherokee Indians and Sasoya peoples, UT-Makoki Creek. And now, please welcome our Community Outreach Director, Sydney P., who's going to tell us about this month's community partner. Sydney?
Thank you so much, Denise. Our community, Our community outreach partner for March is SEED, Socially Equal Energy Efficient Development. SEED is a nonprofit org located in East Knoxville that is focused on providing pathways out of poverty for young adults through career readiness training, environmental education, and community engagement. This is achieved through several different programs, including their career readiness program, edible forest program, green construction program, and community engagement program. To learn more, visit www.seedknox.org, and to donate, you can visit www.seedknox.org/donations, and that is seed with 3 E's, so make sure you get that right in your URL. Also joining us tonight is Layla Malik. She is the communications and social media coordinator and executive assistant at SEED, and she is going to tell us a little bit more about them. Layla.
Thank you so much, Sydney. And I just wanted to thank SAFTA and everybody here for having me today. Myself, on behalf of SEED, is just like really thrilled to be making more and more community partners and really like making this network like richer and richer of people who are engaged in arts and community building. So I just wanted to start by thanking you all for being here and being present. Well, I mean, the overview that you gave, Sydney, is pretty. It covers almost everything. Essentially, we are focused on uplifting young adults out of poverty by providing them with multiple pathways to do so. So, one of the main programs that we have is our career readiness training program, where we kind of recruit young people who may have gone to underserved high schools or underfunded high schools like Austin East and Fulton in Knoxville. And we help them develop life skills and job skills and placement skills to actually put them in careers, not just like, like wage work necessarily, but like careers that they're passionate about and that they can build upon. And then that's kind of where the other programs that we have intersect with our career readiness program. And that's what I find interesting about our model is that, yes, we have 4 separate programs, but they are all intertwined with each other. And so we have our community engagement, our edible forest, and our green construction. So after the students are done going through the career readiness program, then they get to choose a career path that seems like a good fit for them. If none of those 3 options are a good fit for them, then they can choose to actually go and make a community partner with another one of our multiple resources. So essentially, like not only are the students able to develop a career path in these 3 boot camps, but we're actually doing work in the community aside from developing the job and life skills of these young folks. So in the green construction program, we're actually building solar homes for underserved families in, like, for example, Lonsdale is our first solar home. The hope is to have them actually own these houses, have be providing to the electric grid through solar panels that they'll actually be receiving money from the city for providing into like the city's electrical grid, right? The edible forest, yes, it teaches young adults how to grow sustainable produce, but it also provides the community with clean and healthy and sustainably grown food. Same thing with community engagement, teaches young people how to engage with the community and do sociological research, but it also helps SEED become a liaison between other community partners and government agencies. So it's kind of a long elevator pitch, but there's no other better way to describe the interconnectedness of our program. So again, it's an honor to have y'all have us as a community partner.
Thank you, Layla. It is an honor to have you as a partner and to have you in the Zoom with us tonight. So I appreciate you showing up and telling us all the wonderful work that SEED does. All right, let's get started. Our first reader tonight is Jason B. Crawford. They were born in Washington, D.C., raised in Lansing, Michigan. I forgot that part, Jason. I'm actually in Detroit, so awesome. Their debut full-length collection, Year of the Unicorn Kidz, will be out in 2022 from Sundress Publications. Amanda is dropping the link in the chat where you can purchase that right now, along with the link where you can follow along with Jason's reading. Jason, the floor is yours.
Thank you for having me. I am always excited to do anything with Sundress, of course, not only because they are my publisher, but because of the warmth and openness I feel from the entire community. So I'm very happy to be here to read from my debut collection, Year of the Unicorn Kidz. So I'm just gonna read 4 poems. Yeah, let's read 4 poems. And we're gonna start, let's start at childhood, I guess. The last fight I got into was over a Dr. Pepper for Ricardo's bitch ass. And let the record show I let him swing first. It was wild vine heaved at my skull like a rogue axe, missing the open field of my right jaw. As I, not fully ducking, but sidestepped out of his spiked fist reach, grabbed him by the shoulders and slammed him across the locker room floor, and he didn't swing until the 3rd time I told him to do it, only because I wondered if he truly would, if under the lights of all these shiny new phones and brooding smiled boys, he would become a pro boxer, a wrestler, a kung fu master, the clampering crowd egging on his confidence the annoying way he wanted to be cool. And I wanted to be cool, and nothing was cooler than a fight in the boys' locker room where there were no teachers to play barricade to our rushing testosterone, and how he would only pick fights with everyone he knew he could find his body left buried under. Young, boy, queer, and unknowing, placing all his rage into his knuckles. I waited patiently, poking at him with my words like a stick, testing how macho his manhood was in his chest and in his pants. But I couldn't do anything until the first throw of closed palm aimed at my nose like a scoped bullet, and I just moved out the way, hands ready to return his blood to the dirt. So yeah, I wrote this book. It came out this month. And Year of the Unicorn Kidz. I love this cover. This is such beautiful artwork by my friend James Wine. It really, it looks at like sexuality and gender, but it also looks at the safe spaces in which being queer or being trans, and how there really aren't safe spaces made for us, even in our own desire. So like even in the idea of desire, we are not able to have a safe space. So moving into that, I'm going to be reading the poem called The Possum. The Possum. It must be the way the meat opens, how it pours out like a shattering creek, sparkle of blood, the glisten in the hot August air, the way it ferments in me, his kiss wet as the backside of moss. How I lap up his cum with my ladled tongue. Most of my memories of him are like this. Sweat and flesh sealed close by a single sheet. It's how I wish to remember him always. In my arms, his skin pressed against my bone. Maybe it's the way he guts me like a possum does its roadkill, the deer, with its jaw splattered, rolling down the highway, and the possum fishing through its remains for its next meal. I don't blame him for taking what he needs to survive, the lungs and all. It's in our nature to find comfort in the blood of others. It must be the open pour of blood, the hot August ferments in his kiss, his tongue memories close, always pressed against my bone. It's the way he guts me for his next meal. I don't blame the nature of others, the way the meat sparkles, glistens, wet, how my tongue remembers him pressed against the lungs. It must be in the blood. Like I said, I'm going to read two more poems. And I did a lot of playing back and forth in this book, thinking about how I can teeter this idea of violence and sex, along with the idea of cruising. So the idea of cruising also comes into this book a little bit, which I think maybe, no, it's not the last one. But like just teetering like on this idea of like wanting desire and sex, and then how dangerous that still can become. So in that, I guess this is kind of a crazy poem, but I did a lot of foreign poems as well. And anyone that lives in Ann Arbor also can like definitely spot a lot of Ann Arbor in this. This is kind of an Ann Arbor poem. It's kind of made up, kind of not made up. It's the same situation, but I just exaggerated it because why not? I'm a poet, I'm allowed to. And the title gets its name from a Salt and Pepper song. Let's talk about sex. He looks at me like, you know, raised brows, like it's time for sex. And he is curled smirk, signaling you want to have sex with me now. Broad daylight in the middle of this Barnes and Noble history section next to the toys. Not sure why this flicks on his sex drive. So I laugh, brush him off my shoulder, grab another book, but he says, come on, baby. That would be so hot, right? It's just sex. My own limbs dangling from the small link of his keychain. Sure, in this act of conquest, it could be just sex, or it could be my flesh pillaged again by foreign hands raking at my back, and I could feel it in the way his teeth kiss, the sweaty, twisted way of the word sex drops off his tongue. I hear the privilege bouncing around the space in his throat when he says how much he loves me. Let's do it. Let's fuck right here. It's just sex. So last poem, which is a little bit longer of a poem, that I'm gonna read. The other piece that I really wanted to experiment is the idea of re-queering my youth. What does it look like if I was able to be fully myself and fully here as a young adult? And what do I gain from that? But also, what do I lose in that, right? I came out at 23, so it was relatively late. And I was thinking, what would it have been like in my middle school, my elementary school, my high school, if I could be fully myself at 10. beloved. But then what do I lose in that too? So for those who don't know, I'm also, or it's in my bio, but I'm non-binary. I use they, them pronouns. A lot of times when people refer to me as a boy, I refer to myself back as a boy, but it's BOI, which is playing with the soft boy, right? So this poem itself is called In Defense of Boys Being Boys, BOY to BOI. Maybe it is the black heat of summer. Its long, freckling prongs forced into our anatomy. The hours of sun we choke down until we become light so much that we only know how to run towards it. Each scoopful of cosmic ray doused in glitter, flickering in our windpipes, maybe it's the boys we wish we were. The masculine, the muscle, the unsick blood, painted silhouette of a cat's eye dressed in fool's gold foil, the malleable tongue split into gender, its bitter curl around a vile shaft, dismemberment and pickling of the boy body. Maybe it's the way we are taught to love from a distance, the way we look at Terrell in gym class, his fresh pair of white shorts, Stefan running around the track, naked upper frame, glistening in salt, Tyrone and his senior bound shoulders bouldering in thick brown skin. We are told to two-hand touch Johnny and flag football and try not to let our hands slip below his belt. But we envisioned all later that night, our fingertips tracing the weight of his hem, and it's in the language of how we dream it, crawling our fingers in between a boy's belt loops. Oh no. Reaching into the unzipped fly of his jabos, pulling back a boy flocked in butterflies. Maybe it is just how we are in sixth grade and have been taught we own nothing, including our own cauterized erection, the dichotomy of meat, what it is worth. Young us, not yet understanding the soreness that thrashing bodies can bring. There's violence in every action. Love is not the exception. No, only of the blood staining silk sheets in her touch. And I guess that is the simplest analogy for currency. At 11, we have not yet learned this form of division. We just know the curvature of James's still quaking abs, and if this is the price of our cocooning body being cracked into a trickling cavity by the blade of a boy's fearful hand, careening wildly to our sternum. Bring on the light. We welcome it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jason. I was all prepared to make a comment about the turn and let's talk about sex. And then you read that poem that had about 16 other turns in it. So I love, absolutely love the way it flows and ebbs. And it's that, I don't know. I don't have words right now to explain it, but thank you. Very well done. Okay. Up next, we will hear from Marlanda Dekine. Marlanda's debut full-length poetry collection, Thresh and Hold, also love that title, is the winner of Hub City Press's 2021 New Southern Voices Poetry Prize and is forthcoming in March 2022. That's right now. Dekine is a Watering Hole Fellow, 10 House Scholar, and Palm Beach Poetry Festival Langston Hughes Fellow. You can learn more at the sapientsoul.square.site. You can also find the links for Marlanda's debut collection and the links to follow along with her reading in the chat. Marlanda, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Sundress Academy. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to read several poems, so I'm going to jump in and watch my time. The Black River. Whoa, let me show you the book. This is my first reading, so I'm going to be learning here. This is Thresh and Hold. The Black River. Whispered dreams, Spanish moss reached. When we moved back to where my parents grew up, I was eating more rice than I knew existed, and I did not want to be. Up and down. The village is known as Jackson Village Road. I didn't understand, speaking to me in, telling me which of our dead. I had God, I have never prayed, home, 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 home. Why people were stories I resembled so many cousins and so many questions for, as much as I wonder, home, home, home. I didn't understand home, why people were speaking to me in home, stories telling me home, which of our dead, home. I resembled home, so many cousins I had, home, and so many questions for God. I have never prayed, home, as much as I, home, home, wonder, home, home, home. This next poem is called I Am Bound for the Kingdom, after Florence Price and Marian Anderson. My granddaddy Silas was born on the Nightingale Plantation in Plantersville, South Carolina, on riverbanks that loved. 3 generations of my kin captured in a green tinted photograph hanging in my daddy's den. Tonight, my eyes will take each old world bird from the crop space, send them home with their songs and favorite foods. Look out for me, I'm a-comin' too. With rice, okra, hard-boiled eggs, and Lord Calvert. My daddy says if I get out of my car on Nightingale land, the folks who own it might shoot. My daddy says, never leave the driveway. Glory into my soul. I watch all of my ascendants, their faces reflecting me in that photograph. Their eyes are dead, black-eyed Susans. A rose. In a dream, my daddy found his ma hanging one night inside a bedroom closet. She'd been dead 13 years. I was asleep and 9 years old. He said her mouth was a cave opening. Inside there was a choir of deacons, dressed and ready for the ritual, a trilling crescendo of sweet songs, nightingales who wanted to be filled by forgiveness, singing, she rose from the dead. Grandma Lizzie cued the choir. They dragged my daddy in that last note. Every bird moaned at once. He gonna be just like you, daddy. I watched turkey vultures gather over my family's field. Why we let nothing die easily? My Black, rural, queer childhood. I want my body, but I don't want it to be called a body. Reminds me of when my family and I were driving through Manning, South Carolina. I was the first to see the big black sound, the buzzing in all our ears. I'd never heard of a horsefly. I just knew it was big. I screamed, and our big brown caravan stopped at a triangular median, smack dab in the middle of a small downtown road. I screamed. The horsefly buzzed and smacked itself into the wide windows of blue sky. I don't remember. I can spot a single ant on a dark surface. Maybe I've been afraid to claim my body, afraid to be wild and break out into all this sky around me. Perhaps I can burst through ceilings and glass, explode into joy. I'm using these tabs so I can stay in order, and I think I might have confused myself with these tabs. Collecting myself. That's funny that I just said that, and the title is Collecting Myself. I opened the door and all the girls were gone. No one was peeking into my bathroom stall anymore. No one asked me if I am a boy today. It was just me, sitting on a cold floor, waiting to open my eyes. I imagined their spit was river water shined by moon. I could drink from it. Their laughter bloomed into my bloody noses. I loved all the girls. The closest I got to one of them was in 4th grade PE when India aimed the baseball and caught me hard in my eye. She ran over before the teacher could see, and she searched my face for blood. I waited for her to pick me up like I belonged to her. This next poem is probably the longest poem I'll read tonight. It's entitled Plantersville, South Carolina, and it's where most of the book takes place, this world. Plantersville, South Carolina. I take the Winyah Bay on a tour de Plantersville. The local rice museum would like to come, but it cannot until its donors complete the following. 1, pamphlets and videos denote that the natives were not European discoverers. 2, its ticketed events acknowledge the enslaved West and Central Africans stolen to build a third of the nation's economy. And 3, its elevator is fixed so all the people can enter the museum safely. My grandma Thelma and grandpa Mose went to the same school right here. They'd walk up opposite sides of Exodus Drive. Now we are beside their house. This is a field where their school used to be. It's where my ma forgets she ever harvested squash. Down Jackson Village Road, up and at the bend, across from the Candy Lady's blue house, just before that big magnolia is where my grandma Lizzie and granddaddy Silas were married. This iron ochre tub in my parents' front yard is where my daddy took hogs to slaughter when he was 9. Less than a mile from here is a creek where my kin disembark with fish rods, cold beer, and jokes. It's where I'll be ashes spread across the Black River. This is where people put flowers and crosses for whoever died at the crossroads. They call it respecting the dead. At the crossroad of Exodus Drive and Jackson Village Road is where I saw my first live alligator washed up from a hurricane, playing dead. I watched folks gather from 4 directions of the village for food. Here still is 300 acres of white-owned land where my ancestors were people called booming rice industry. Yes, bienvenue means welcome in French. Yes, this is called Bienvenue Plantation. Just down the road is Chicora Wood Plantation, where the first US white woman planter who did not plant is honored by a plaque and her collections of my ancestors' narratives. It's where my great-great-granddaddy Friday is buried, and it's where I cannot go without permission. It's where I went on field trips and screamed with joy as my soft body flew down acres of wild water, slides over the smoothest grasses I'd ever seen, where I tried to be a child, spinning around a maypole, and I let my feet lift off the ground just a bit. Thresh and hold. Flooding in now, I rest so I can harvest new worlds already net so still. Without rest, I cannot hear my grandma Lizzie and my grandma Thelma. Without rest, I cannot hear my Aunt Carolyn composing for her Lord. I cannot hear my Aunt Angie cussing angels while guiding me across memoried waters. I am learning what real power is. A year ago, I wouldn't have felt our bright red, black, green chords of spirit calling. Women in my family have dropped dead one day, and the family kept right on working. I rest like I have tomorrows growing on a vine outside. I rest like a horned owl. My ancestors turned into machines by rice is booming in Georgetown, sale extravaganza. I rest beneath my grandma Lizzie's oil-dressed magnolia, painted white and green at the trunk. I risk surrender to her dark sachet. West Africa caught my granddaddy Silas by the brain. Here's a cosmos I picked from his field of grasses. Women in my family have dropped dead one day, purple gowned and waiting for us in the next. Just two more poems. Actually, yeah, that's right. I have confused myself. Let's see, 29. The shade tree. You will find me in every Gullah Geechee place, wholly haunting I watch. I get to know who visits me. I want to be a good psychic. I celebrate the gathering of water. I love to breathe the air they breathe. I watch Trey roll a blunt. Doris push pleasure smoke while all her folk are moved by her spirit. Sweet tobacco wafting headstones. Granddaddy's tools. I am 33 the first time. I put my hands on a shovel the first time. I feel my dead granddaddy alive inside me. I am digging a hole to put me in with granddaddy's shovel. Daddy yells for me to stop, lying in the middle of granddaddy's field of grasses. He says the moisture will make me sick, but my ears have a new fear filter. I am listening to spirit. I am not dying today. Denise, I lied and said that there were two more, and there's actually two more. Do I have time? If I don't, it's okay.
I actually think you might be out of time, so I don't want to cut off Gustavo.
No.
I want to make sure
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you all for listening.
And thank you. I believe you said was this your first time reading from Thresh and Hold? Is that what you said?
It is. It's the first time with the book in my hand. Yes.
Okay, all right. Because obviously this is not your first time reading, because I heard a very seasoned pen and a very seasoned voice, so I knew that. And I have to get a copy of this book because I have to see what these line breaks look like on the page. Hearing you read them and hear the pauses, I'm like, I need to see what this looks like. So I will be getting a copy of your book right after we log off of here, just for the record. Okay, so thank you, Marlanda. All right, our final reader for tonight is Gustavo Barahona-López. Did I get it right, Gustavo? I've been practicing. Okay. Gustavo is a writer and educator from Richmond, California. In his writing, Barahona-López draws from his experience growing up as the son of Mexican immigrants. His chapbook, Lost and Other Rivers That Devour, was published in February 2022 by Nomadic Press. He was a finalist for the 2021 Quarterly West Poetry Prize, a member of the Writers' Grotto, and a VONA alum. Barahona-López's work can be found or is forthcoming in Diode, Quarterly West, Iron Horse Literary Review, Puerto del Sol, the Acentos Review, Apogee Journal, Hayden's Ferry Review, among other publications. The link to find Gustavo's chapbook is being dropped into the chat, along with the link to follow along with his reading. Gustavo, the mic is yours.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here with all of you. I think I may have included a couple too many poems, so I'm gonna cut a couple just in the interest of time. So I apologize if you're excited about a specific one. But yeah, Lost and Other Rivers That Devour, that looks like this. So it focuses on kind of like my mourning of my father, or my grief around my father, who passed away when I was 19 years old, back in 2007, and then from pancreatic cancer. And so in becoming a man and growing up and becoming a father, in the last 4 years, it's really kind of like reshaped, and like the way that I view my father and my relationship with my father is kind of shifted, as I'm like, oh wait, like things didn't have to be like that. I didn't have to like be afraid of you like all the time. And so this is kind of like grappling with a lot of those like with my identity and my relationship with my dad. Okay. So I'll jump in. Chevron check Hasal. Hydrocarbon cloud fires itself into a new existence, a type of life brought about by its own destruction. All my early life, I grew in the shadow of smokestacks, smog misting thirsty earth. The running juices of lemons and tomatoes made a worthy life. My father applied his calloused hands to cultivate our backyard, proudly served bowls of sliced peaches, his love language. His life was cut short. He, like my uncles, like myself, is a statistic. Elevated cancer and asthma rates, the reward for taking life, giving breath. How much death is ingested in the name of survival. Like crude oil, the years continue to leak from my shortened life. One day, my mother boiled chayotes she'd grown. I devoured their spiny hearts, an incantation to rid me of the poison threatening my life. Today, I tender the corrosion nesting in my lungs. I cash a $300 check from the latest Chevron settlement and consider the value of this life. And convivir does not mean to live together. It means to break bread juntos, to form comunidad, to be present beyond the first of the month, or when you remind people to wash their own damn platos. Goal in English is a weak statement. In Spanish, gol is an experience. In Español, love has gradations. Te quiero pero no te amo, says a teenage boy trying to have it both ways. La güera is your light-skinned prima. El gringo is that white man who mispronounces two words in Español and expects to be praised like he recited a Garcia Lorca poem by heart. Mojado is an immigrant who survives coyotes, la migra, y ese maldito río. Deserves a towel, chocolate, and a fireplace to take the chill from the bones. Aunque ahora es el desierto que toma el agua, la piel y los sueños de los migrantes. I used to visit Mexico for months at a time, play canicas, scale cerros, eat mangos and pepinos with chile and limón. Español invadía mi cuerpo como susurro, diciendo, I am the adopted, the imposed, the forgotten. Cuando se me caía la mollera, the curandera did not massage me, me sobaba. She would draw espíritus from me with an egg, rub the huevo against me like an elegy to syncretism, to purepecha gods I can never pray to. I do not know their names. The times my monolingual father called me a pendejo. It heard worse than all the English curse words I learned in elementary school combined. When the word pendejo leaves the lips of my papa, it means I am a failure y nunca seré nada. ¿Cómo se dice therapy en español? I no longer dream in Spanish. My nightmares are in English. But when I cry o doy mi corazón, lo hago in 2 different tongues. Okay. I'm gonna skip one really quick. So, license to live. In the warm afternoon light, the migrant tore open an envelope and found a glistening license stamped with the dancing letters DMV. After he carefully placed the laminated treasure into his skinny wallet, he grabbed his keys and flew into a car barely a grade above a jalopy. Without the usual fear, he let the vehicle roar. After all, he was official. But that was years ago, and the faded letters no longer danced, and the card was expired. At last, the migrant gave the license to his son, who in turn put it into a skinny wallet they purchased together at a flea market. The son, trying to remember his father's face, often stared into his father's laminated eyes. The son pulled at the memories trapped inside the holographic image, the way we all long to recall that someone that we have lost. There's a ghost in my house. He does not make lights flicker or move objects or make noises in the night. He does not try to scare people by appearing at inopportune moments. He lives and lets live. He wonders what is really behind the light and when he should cross into it. Likes to stream The Exorcist on the family Netflix account, although demons scare him and exorcisms seem inconvenient. He wishes his father had not gotten cancer, and that they had shared a proper goodbye before each became a ghost of what they had once been. Cursed family histories, a Father, Son, and Holy Spirit gone. I have a ghost in my house, but I don't want him to leave because right now things are safe and familiar. He feels empty, transparent, and so I'm afraid that I will lose him again. So I think, do I have time for last 2? Yeah, okay, great. Alrighty. Home of Becoming. I remind myself that my legs are countries the way borders are the hemlines of worn jeans. How do you say goodbye to backyard pomegranates? They demand remittances like body parts, lips and arms and cheeks to be kissed by a monarch butterfly. I rip off the barbed wire across my spine, protection for the casa triste that lives on my temple. How do you greet America? Like a lost lover, torn from you by time or lust or hate, like a child not at peace with self. I become the orchard and the railroad. I raise the children, bury the dead. I make myself a home. I build connection like water creates caverns, writing names on stone walls. And the last one. Crows hold grudges for generations. Some days I wonder what crows squawk about. Would it be like to caress their dark feathers like a bouquet of baby's breath? I think they're talking shit about me. How my hair is not black, like I deceived myself into believing, but dark brown. Brown as in body breached, body as in wings severed. My wings are marinated in buffalo sauce. Teeth nibble on cartilage as tongue extracts morsels between bones. I fear my ancestors will not recognize me. How many languages have I lost? I of the impoverished lexicon watch words pop like bubbles after kissing blades of grass. I am much too fractured to believe in bygones. I am too much earth to die. Thank you.
Thank you, Gustavo. Those last lines are just slaying me. Oh my goodness. That plus the crows are probably talking shit about all of us, just for the record. Okay. Wow. Now it's time to open up for our Q&A portion of tonight's reading. So if you have any questions to ask our lovely readers, now is the time. I'm going to ask you to drop those in the chat, and hopefully Amanda will be so kind as to help me monitor that, make sure I don't miss anything. So while we are waiting to see if anyone else has a question, I have one to start because I always do. As a fellow writer, I am always curious about where people get inspiration from. And I can certainly hear through some of your work, some of the themes that you explore, some of the very personal things that you guys have shared with us. But I am curious who, as a poet, inspires you? Like, who are you reading right now? Jason, why don't you start for us?
Okay, yeah. For me, I would say big inspirations would be like Tommy Blount. I would say Sam Sachs would be a huge inspiration for me as well. And I own everything that Dinesh Smith writes, so has to be literally, if it's written by them, I own it. But yeah, those are three of the poets I definitely lean into a lot when I'm thinking about my work.
Excellent. Tommy is a friend, so definitely a fan of him, and you can never go wrong with anything that Dinesh Smith does. That is a true statement. Okay, Marlanda, how about you?
Yeah, I would say Kamal Brathwaite. Also, I've been reading currently CT, I think it's Salazar. I'm not sure how to say CT's last name. Salazar, CT Salazar. Headless John the Baptist Hitchhiking, and that's been blowing my mind. Another influence for me, that's what I'm reading right now, but an influence I would say, Nikki Finney and Tyree Day. Tyree Day's work is a big influence for me.
Okay. I don't know Tylee, but I am a fan of Head Off and Split was a fabulous book, that Nikki Finney. So definitely. Gustavo, how about you?
A couple of poets that I really love are Vanessa Angelica Villarreal, who Beast Meridian, and then anything by Eduardo Corral as well, and then also I'm waiting on CT Salazar's book, but completely blanking on. I was like, Victoria Chang, like Obit is just like phenomenal, and then there are a couple of poems in my chapbook that are like directly that are inspired by poems that are in obit. And I think it just like it made the idea of grief like really or it tackles it in really complex ways that I hadn't seen before.
Absolutely. First of all, I love hearing these names being dropped, so I hope you all are paying attention and getting these so that we can get these work by these amazing people. And then I will say, Gustavo, I actually don't know any of the people that you mentioned, but thinking specifically about grief books, I thought about Kevin Young in the Book of Hours. So I don't know if you know Kevin Young. I believe it's New York Times editor these days, or Sean something. He's always doing something. Um, but yeah, he has a book called The Book of Hours, which is about the grief process and the grief of his father as well, losing his father as well. So I thought about him when you were reading your pieces. Okay, I don't see any questions coming, so I'm going to keep right on going. We still got 7 more minutes. And my next question, we'll start with Jason once again. Tell me about your writing process. What does that look like? Are you one of those people that is writing on their phone constantly? Do you need to wait for inspiration to strike you? Do you get up every morning and insist on writing something? What does your process look like?
So it's definitely it's something in which I'm writing in my notes app. I write everything in a prose block. So it's whatever's coming to me in the moment. I'm going to write that prose block, and then once I feel like that prose block is complete, then I take it to my Google Doc, and then I'll start doing my line breaks if there's going to be line breaks on it, deciding if it's going to be in couplets or stanzas or like whatever I want it to look like. From there, I also write a lot in movement. So like if I'm on the train or if I'm walking, and I'm like, a lot of times I'll just listen to rain sounds so I can just stay within my own head, which allows me to like think of whatever I'm trying to process at that moment. I had a very dangerous writing practice. I used to write while driving a lot. I've been yelled at multiple times. I don't have a car anymore, so we don't have to worry about it. I live in New York. I got rid of the car, but that was also a practice that I have to say.
So you got rid of the car by choice and not because you ran into something
choice.
trying to write a poem, right? Okay,
No, by choice.
Okay, all right. Ooh, all right. Thank you, Jason. Marlanda, how about you? What's your process like?
Yeah, I do not do it anymore, but I did do the writing in the car thing while drive, like the texting, writing a poem. What I've changed it to though now is recording voice notes and forgetting about them, which I like to forget about them because I come back and it's like some new thing. I don't remember it being there. I take a lot of walks, which helps me to clear my thinking brain. So a lot of movement helps me. Reading helps me write. So I'm not usually writing if I'm not consuming art in some way. So music, reading, visual art. So it's not that I get up and come to this desk every day, but I'm always writing somehow. I think it's just a part of how I'm moving through the day. And then when I sit down and free write and just kind of let things fall out, and maybe I might get a line out of there. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for no longer writing while you're driving. I appreciate
Yeah.
Gustavo, tell us, what's your process like? Are you writing while driving too?
No, not. Well, the problem right now is that I'm not really writing that much. It's just we were blessed with or my wife Gatti and I were blessed with a little girl over the summer. So she her name is Isa. So she's 8 months now, but yeah, it means I don't have very much bandwidth for writing, unfortunately. And I'm really slow at writing to begin with because I try to like build almost the entire poem in my head before I write it down, which is yeah, which does not lend itself to being like hyper productive. But one thing that I've done to help me, like if I'm in a funk and is just like try to write in form. So I'll do like I was like, oh, like I want to write a duplex. So I wrote a duplex. And then I want to write actually the first poem that I read was Hasal. So I had like been thinking about it, like writing one, and then the inspiration hit one time, and then I was able to write it in like almost one sitting. So yeah, like sometimes like having specific structure rules into my writing help me actually generate a lot more content.
Well, congratulations on the birth of Issa. I am certain that she is beautiful and taking up all of your energy and time. So thank you for being with us tonight. And I will say that writing in your head is not unproductive, because Stephen King does it all the time and he writes 2 to 3 books a year. So that's not necessarily unproductive. All right, so I still haven't seen anything come up in the chat. We are, of course, about to wind down. So first and foremost, I want to thank Gustavo, Marlanda, and Jason for being with us tonight, for sharing all of those wonderful, very personal poems and words with us. As soon as we log off, I'm going to go order 3 books. I don't know about you all, but I need to have all 3 of these collections in my personal possession. And then I have to meet you all so you can sign them. Okay. All right. So don't forget to donate our merch to our March community partner, Seed. Amanda is so gracious as to drop that link in the chat for us one more time. And we'd like to invite you to join us on Wednesday, April 13th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. for Image, Meaning, and Invention workshop led by Hughes. This workshop will invite participants to think deeply about the image on the page, to move past surface level show, don't tell advice, and to see the image as a powerful tool of meaning making all writers do. The link to RSVP is in the chat for that as well. We'd also love to see you next month at our April installment of our Poetry CrossFit. The event will take place on Sunday, April 17th, 2022, from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time via Zoom. And once again, that RSVP link is in the chat. Lastly, we hope to see you at the April installment of our reading series on April 27th from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Zoom. April's reading will feature Margot Berdashevsky, Ali Black, and Sharon Suzuki Martinez. You can RSVP for the event at that link in the chat, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening.